Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the ICD-10-CM Coding Guidelines Challenge 2026. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so if you are a medical coding student, or even if you are a brand new coder or a veteran coder, this challenge applies to you. Every October 1st, the new ICD-10-CM diagnosis coding guidelines kicks in, and those guidelines are applicable October 1. So what I have done for the last few years is challenged folks to read the guidelines in their entirety 4 times in the month of October, because that is when the guidelines kick in, right? And some people, I usually start talking about it and hyping it up in September. People get started and it helps them to maintain that momentum all through October. It is important as medical coders and even as a biller to read the ICD-10-CM coding guidelines, because these are our diagnosis codes, and it is telling you about sequencing. It is telling you about when things should be applied and when diagnosis codes should not be applied. And so there's a lot of things that you can learn just by reading the coding guidelines. There's a lot of confusion in the industry about coding, and especially when you're first out of the gate. And a lot of times when people will email me very simple questions, I don't answer very simple questions, especially when it is a guidelines-based question, because that is as easy as going to the guidelines. But a lot of people will be intimidated by the guidelines. Now, I have included both years, the 2025 ICD-10-CM official guidelines for coding and reporting, and I've also included the 2026 ICD-10-CM coding guidelines for reporting, official guidelines for reporting. And it depends on where you are on your journey, which one you want to read for the month of October. But for the most part, right, if you have experience, if you're out in the field right now, if you are going to take your test next year, if you are with AAPC and you're taking your test after January 1, 2026, you will need to read the 2026 ICD-10-CM coding guidelines. If you are with the American Health Information Management Association, AHIMA, and you're taking the CCS, the gold standard of medical coding credentials, the CCA or the CCS-P, you're taking your exam all the way from now until April 2026, the end of April 2026, you will need to read the 2025 guidelines, because that is what your test will be based on. If you are taking your test May 1st and beyond in 2026, you will want to, if you're taking the AHIMA exams, okay, CCS, CCA, CCS-P, you will want to read the 2026 guidelines. But anything before the end of April, you want to read the 2025 guidelines, because the tests are going to be based on those particular years, because AHIMA differs from AAPC in that they don't start the new code set of codes and coding for their test until those different times, okay? AAPC does it January 1, AHIMA does it May 1st. So it really all depends on which association you're taking your exam through, so that way you know which one to take. But if you're already out there, if you're a brand new coder, you need to be reading the 2026 guidelines. Now, it's a little intimidating, because if you look at it in the book, and all of the main publishers for ICD-10-CM include the coding guidelines, and depending on which book you're getting is going to be which set you're getting. If you get the 2025 ICD-10-CM book, it's obviously going to have the ICD-10-CM guidelines for 2025. If you get the 2026, it is the same thing. It's going to be 2026 guidelines in those books. So it's usually located in the front of the book, and depending on the print size, if you have the Optum Expert for Physicians, it's about 38 pages. So, but it's front and back, and then it's columned, okay? So it's quite a bit of information. But if you look in the description box, I included it in the description box, the links for the 2025 and the 2026 guidelines. So whichever one you're doing, okay? I'm not telling y'all to look it up, even though I would normally tell y'all to look it up, but I know that a lot of you are going to write to me asking me and demanding me to post a link, and I am posting a link. It is in the description box. So there. So go there. But when you see the number of pages, it's going to be like 128, something like that, 124, something like that pages. Don't get intimidated because it is just the font size, okay? That is all it is. And it's not going columned like it is in the book. It is like literally one page is like a whole thing. So that's why it's so long. But you're reading all of this information. Now, I have talked on my channel before about how to break down the guidelines to study them. So what I suggest is reading the entire code, the entire guidelines from beginning to end, because if you are preparing for your exam, it is going to help you to gain your speed as a reader. A lot of people write to me and tell me how they are not a fast reader, how they read really slow. Reading speed takes time, and if you are just reading like little tweets or whatever, or little 120 characters, 140 characters, you're only reading that, that's not building up your speed. People unfortunately don't read books anymore like they should. I love books, as you can see back here, but they don't read, and so a lot of their reading skills have really gone down, especially reading speed. So reading the coding guidelines is going to help you to build that speed. Now, if you're reading these guidelines and you say, well, Blue, I can't read all of this in one sitting. No one's expecting you to read it all in one sitting, and it is quite a bit. It's copious amounts of information. So what I have suggested before is taking a few pages and maybe dividing it up over the week and just reading a few pages a day, okay? And then after a while, when you read through the guidelines in their entirety the first time, it is going to be easier the second round, because your brain's already going to actively recall what it's seeing. And it's going to be like, okay, we read this before, so we're going to go a little bit faster. And every single time you do it, it is going to get easier. Now, if you say, well, Blue, I just get tired of reading and I'm looking at things all day, can I just listen to it? Yes, you absolutely can. I am going to include the link if you want to order it from me, the instructions. The reason that I am not posting the instructions for free like I used to is because a lot of people would write to me complaining how the voice put them to sleep. So here's the thing. You can listen to these guidelines on your laptop or on your desktop. If you have an app on your phone that can read to you, that's something different. I don't know about that. I know how to make it read from the laptop or from the desktop. Okay, I know those instructions. And you can change the voice. So if you write to me telling me that the voice is putting you to sleep and you're so bored with it, you are ungrateful. You are ungrateful. There's no other way to put it other than you are ungrateful. Don't complain to me about something that is going to make it easier for you to learn. Now, when you're listening to guidelines, you're going to get about 10% of it, but it's still going to be that 10% that you would not have gotten if you weren't doing that. So you can absolutely listen to the guidelines while you're cooking, while you're cleaning, while you're doing anything like little things around the house. You could be listening to it. And again, you could be listening to just a few pages at a time, and then you take a break, and then you come back to it, okay? No one needs you to sit all the way through it. And people have asked me, should I fall asleep to these guidelines? If you can do that, I can't do that. If I hear something, my brain stays awake, and that is no good for me. So if you can do it, you're doing that, listening while you're asleep, that is totally fine. If that's how you learn. But that's not, for me, that's not how I learn, because my brain will be up listening and it will keep me awake. So I can't do that. But if you can do that, absolutely, okay? You can listen to the guidelines, but reading them is preferable. Like actually taking the time to look at the book and read is preferable. There are so many things and so many positive benefits from actually looking at a book and reading it, because one, you're not staring at the screen all day, okay? And you're giving your brain a rest from listening to all this stuff that you're listening to all day long. Whether it is going through Reels or TikTok and you're looking at these little clips and it's just so quick on your brain, giving your brain quiet time to actually look at a book and study from a book and read from a book is really going to be very, very beneficial for you. At least that's just my advice anyway. If you learn a different way, please, by all means, you do what it is that you need to do. But here for me on my channel, for all of my students who want to learn, the correct way, in my opinion, is that you will take the time to read these, because when you are in that test room, if you have not taken your exam yet and you're going to take your test, you're going to need to read quickly, because these tests are timed. If you're taking an AHIMA exam, it is 2 minutes, 40 seconds per question, average per question, right? Because there's 100 questions and you get 4 hours to take your test with AAPC. With AHIMA, it depends on which exam that you're taking. So the average roughly is a little over 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, 20 seconds, 2 minutes, 10 seconds per question average. So you're going to need to have your reading speed up to par, because if you don't, you will run the risk of rushing and not being able to look and think through the question, okay? And so you don't want to do that to yourself. So just make sure that you're getting that practice in now, and reading the coding guidelines is a fantastic challenge to give yourself. Everybody likes these stupid little TikTok challenges. This is one challenge that would be fantastic for you, okay? Because this is actually investing in your growth as a coder. Because a lot of coders will get into not reading the coding guidelines, and then the new guidelines come out and they still haven't read the coding guidelines, and then guess who's falling behind on their knowledge? Because these guidelines do get updated. Sometimes it is subtle updates per year, but these things add up over time. So again, making sure that you're consistently reading them when the new guidelines do come out is fantastic. As I said, the new guidelines have been out, but they're not going to be implemented for actual application into like the real world until October 1, okay? So October 1, 2025, the 2026 ICD-10-CM coding guidelines will be in full force. That is when they get implemented, and that is when people will start using those rules. Up until that date, we are still coding with the 2025 ICD-10-CM coding guidelines, okay? So every October 1 is our medical coder new year, okay? And so that's when we start applying those new codes, those new guidelines for the diagnosis codes, okay? So that's my challenge. I do this every year for the past few years. A lot of people really like it. I encourage people, doesn't matter that you think that, oh, it's just extra work. This isn't extra work. What's extra work is when you tab up your books, highlight and write and all, do all that other garbage in it, because these books are written by doctors and scholars. You actually taking the time to do the heavy lifting and actually read the coding guidelines, that is worth your time, and that is worthwhile. Now, I have to say that because there's always going to be somebody smart saying, well, I just want to make sure I'm not wasting my time. No, you are wasting my time asking me that question. This is not a waste of time. Reading the coding guidelines 4 times in the month of October is going to set you up for success for the rest of the year. Why? Because your brain is going to be on it, and it is going to be like, okay, we remember this. There's something about this in the guidelines. Let me look. You are not required to memorize these guidelines. You're not. Because again, they update every year. But at least getting that information in to your brain, that is what is going to help you. So that is what I hope, and I wish that all of you will do this challenge with me, because I do it right along with you. If you can only get through the guidelines 1 time in the month of October, you know what? I'm proud of you anyway. I am proud of you anyway, because it's a lot to read. And I have talked on the channel before about how to break it down, as far as like breaking it down by a few pages per day, so that way you can work it that way. Or you can break it down by like reading the other sections, and then when you get to the C section, which is all the chapter specific guidelines, what you can do is you can break down your study week by the chapter, because there's not all chapters in ICD-10-CM have guidance for in the guidelines. Not all of them do, because some of them, they just don't have any direction. There's really nothing to say about that. But you can totally break down. I think it comes out to like 19 total chapters, but there's 22 chapters. And it's just, there's stuff in there for like 19 of them. I think it's 19. I have to look again. But for the most part, you're going to break it down that way. Like I said last time, break down the Z chapter with all the Z codes, because it is quite comprehensive. So you could do that in one day. And then there's certain chapters that are a little bit shorter to read than others. So you could totally do it that way as well. And so that way you can kind of mix it up and change it up so it doesn't become boring to you. You can keep track of which chapters that you're reading, or maybe you can get a calendar and write down, I'm going to read chapter 5, 6, and 7 on this day. I'm going to read the Z codes chapter on this day. I'm going to read, chapters 1 through 4 on this day. So that way you can kind of have it, and then you can check that off. Okay. I used to post like a little tracker thing like that, but people got too confused about what a tracker is, even though I was very clear on what it was. I'm not going to post them anymore. So y'all can do that now. Y'all can make your own calendar, make it really simple for yourself. So that way you have something written down like, hey, I'm going to get to this. This is what I got to get to. And trust me, that reading is going to help you so much. You're going to understand it a lot better. In the first few times that you read those coding guidelines, it's still going to be like Greek. You're not going to understand any of it unless you understand Greek. But you want to make sure that you are taking the time to go through those guidelines, so that way it will help you to build your reading speed. You'll be able to be more competent when it comes to the guidelines. You'll know that there are certain things that you need to pay attention to, like the sepsis coding, the injury coding, the external cause coding. So you'll know all of these things based on your time reading those coding guidelines. And spending a few days to read them is good. You don't have to read them all in one day. That's not what I'm challenging you all to do. What I'm challenging you all to do is to take the time to read these coding guidelines in their entirety once per week, 4 times total in the month of October. That's all I'm challenging you to do. So today is what? When this video comes out, it'll be the 18th. So we are September 18th right now. And so you want to make sure that you're taking the time to be like, okay, well, we're doing this. Here we go. And we can plan it out. This is a couple of weeks before the 1st of October. So we know we can plan, we can schedule this time in to be listening or to be reading the coding guidelines. Whatever you got to do, guys, you can fit this time in. If you're doing something like brushing your teeth, you could be listening to those guidelines. You can be, you're getting ready for the day, listening to the coding guidelines. You're cooking, listening to the coding guidelines. You have some time to sit there and be with the family and everybody's watching TV, you could be reading the coding guidelines. Okay? They don't need you to have your attention on the TV in order for you to be reading that book. Okay? And looking actually at the guidelines. That's not going to disturb them. People don't do that anymore anyway. Kids are so into their own thing, unfortunately. But that's just the world we live in right now. But your presence and being there, it does mean something, but it's not an excuse for you to not fit in a little bit of time. It's not something that you have to do for hours on end. I have always recommended that if you're going to read these coding guidelines, that you read them at 30 minutes at a time or 1 hour at a time. If you can, all you can muster is 15 minutes before like your eyes start to get droopy, it's fine. Read for those 15 minutes, set your timer, read them. Don't get all wrapped up in, oh, I only read this much. You will build that speed after a while. People who are long distance runners, do you think they learn to long distance run overnight? Absolutely not. It takes time, discipline, skill. It takes them conditioning their bodies. It is the same thing with you. You are conditioning yourself to be disciplined enough to sit and read and pay attention for those 15 minutes. Take yourself a break, get up, move around, come back, set the timer for another 15 minutes, and then you read again. Okay? Timer goes off, you get right back up and you do what you got. Do what you have to do, come right back. You're not sitting there falling asleep. You are actually sitting there engaged for those 15 minutes looking at those guidelines. You don't want to do 15 minutes? Do 20 minutes then. Do 20 minutes. Because you do this only 3 times, you've already read for an hour. You've already read for an hour. Isn't that fantastic? Right? And all you have to do is kind of keep on that momentum. You have 15 minutes. You have 20 minutes. You have that time. There's literally no excuse at all whatsoever. You have that time. If this is important to you, you will make the time for it. If this is just too much for you, and this is not what you thought it was, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is what this is. And this, trust me, will only make it easier for you. This doesn't make it, me explaining this over and over again does not make it easier for me. It makes it easier for you. And that is my whole purpose here too, is to educate the future generation of medical coders, because you all are going to be the stewards of this information, and you need to get it right. You need to get it right, because it's not just, oh, it's some random person that we're coding for and who cares. No, you need to care, because even though you don't see these people, you may be walking in the grocery store, you may be passing by 100 people that you've touched their chart in some way, somehow, and you will never know them personally. But if you have taken the time to educate yourself well and to be able to know the guidelines so that you can competently apply them, because you've been reading the coding guidelines like you should, you've been doing the things like you should, that patient is going to have a good bill, a bill that accurately reflects what happened in their visit, because you competently did that. Because there's too many people out there with a cavalier attitude. They don't care. They're there to collect a check and go home. And unfortunately, there's too many people like that. If there's one out there that's like that, that's one too many. Okay? And like I said, I love this field so much that I want people to be prepared. I want people to be out there educating themselves. And this is one of those challenges that I'm going to put out there. And I'm going to be posting little things, little clips for the 4 weeks that this is going on. I'm going to be posting those, so that way we can check in, we can build a community of like, hey, are you doing this? I'm doing this, great. No, I need to get on it, and encouraging you to get on it, because sitting back and not taking an active role in learning is just not going to cut it, y'all. It is not. It is not going to cut it. If you don't like the way that I talk, if I'm too abrasive for you, there's plenty of other people that will sell you whatever it is that you want to get out of this field. But in the meantime, in between time, for those that actually do want to take this seriously, going through this challenge and then completing it at the end of those 30 days is the best, one of the best feelings in the world. It is one of the best feelings in the world. So that's what I want to continue to encourage y'all to do, because I'm not about the sugar. I'm not going to sit here and coddle you and hold your hand through this whole thing. I already did my part. I left the guidelines in the description box. I already did my part. Okay? I did my part. So now you got to do your part. With that said, I'm going to wrap this one up. I am very excited about doing this challenge with all of you. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.